Hi, it's Nick S. and the CD Man channel. Welcome back to my channel for a special topic today. Today's topic is bands that are successful in changing members and bands that are very unsuccessful with changing members. Two things before we start this video. One, subscribe, and hit the dingy for notifications if you like this video. And two is these are all subject to people's opinions. I'm not everybody. I don't think that everyone's going to agree with me on all of these acts, but so be it. My opinion is my opinion. This is one man's opinion. Anyway, second thing is, before we go on this video, if a band switches to an independent record label for the most part, and you were on a major label, you were a major hit band, in my opinion, you can't succeed in that thing. You're not going to have another big hit on an independent record label. Now, there's exceptions to that rule, obviously. If you lose a big member and then come back on, say, James Records, the independent label, you're not going to do as well as you would if you're on Columbia or Warner or Atlantic or even Capitol or whatever labels, major labels that are out there. So a lot of the acts in my second list are people that have downgraded themselves to an independent label with a new vocalist or whatever, this and that. No, don't care for that type of thing. Let's start with the positive and do the better. The 10 acts that I think successfully changed members, major members in their band. We'll start with Van Halen. Van Halen was a powerhouse on the pop music scene and metal scene and rock scene in the late 70s and early 80s with Diamond David Lee Roth on vocals. Hits like Dance the Night Away, Running with the Devil, and Jump were major successes for Van Halen up through 1984. In 1986, they brought in Sammy Hagar and had more success with the albums 5150, Balance, Fall in Love with Carnal Knowledge, among others. No problem. Now, when they brought in Gary Cherone of Extreme, not as good. But I am one of the few people that doesn't think they were horrible with Gary Cherone. They weren't great. Album might not get a buy it from me, but it certainly wouldn't get a trash it. Second act is Kiss. We're talking about when Kiss switched from Ace Frehley to Vinnie Vincent, Mark St. John, Bruce Kulick, and now even Tommy Thayer. I'm not a big fan of the Tommy Thayer era Kiss, but the others, no problem with them whatsoever. I really usually can put Kiss into two periods, the masked period and the unmasked period. So the period in the 1980s with the revolving door, mainly Bruce Kulick, but revolving door of guitarists is a different period to me. It's not, what is it their golden years? No, but there's a lot to like about it. The third act is Journey. Now, I'm not referring to every vocalist Journey's ever released a record with. However, Steve Perry was the GOAT of Journey, greatest of all time. Amir Penda is not a bad vocalist. After all these years, it was a very sizable adult contemporary hit. And their new album is actually really, really good. It might make it to my best of the year listings. Alice in Chains, number 4. Their original vocalist, Lane Stanley, was something of a 90s rock god to me. However, William DeVoy, I believe that's his name, for the new vocalist, isn't really that bad. And their records, they managed to keep a major label deal with a new vocalist. Can't complain about that. Well, are their new records as good as the old albums? Actually, they might be. When we get to them, I'll actually be able to tell you that. Metallica. Cliff Burton was a thrash metal god. Moving on to Jason Newsted and then now Robert Trujillo. Just as good, in my opinion. I'm one of those people that think Saint Anger and the Through Load albums aren't that bad. They're not the one with Lou Reed, which was really god-awful. Anyway, Genesis. We're talking about Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel. Peter Gabriel was the art rock of Genesis. Phil Collins was the single-minded Genesis, where they put out great singles and good middle-of-the-road rock albums. Will I say the same with Ray Wilson, the singer who sang on Calling All Stations? Tune in my bad list for that. But Phil Collins and Peter Gabriel, just as good. Next is the Red Hot Chili Peppers. Now, I'm not going to go through every guitarist Red Hot Chili Peppers has had on every album. However, they've made changes without being considered by me at least to be bad changes. So let's move on from them. Next is Toto. We're talking about Bobby Kimball to Freddie Fredrickson to Jason Scheff. Jason Scheff was just as good a vocal. No, excuse me, that's Chicago, Jason Scheff. I'm going to say Joseph Williams. I apologize for that. It's Jason Scheff from Chicago coming up later, and it's Joseph Williams. Joseph Williams, Bobby Kimball to Freddie Fredrickson to Joseph Williams. Joseph Williams is every bit as good a vocalist in toto as Bobby Kimball was in the early years. Next up, we have Chicago. Peter Cetera was a great, great, great vocalist. To replace him with people like Bill Champlin, who actually sang alongside him for a couple of years, and the great Jason Scheff, still moved on. Now, there was a period in time where I think Chicago failed or didn't do as well. Yes. But in the 80s era Chicago was every bit, to me, as good as 70s Chicago. And the last act is New Edition. Losing Bobby Brown could have been a big kick to anybody. But to get Johnny Gill, just as good. I'm not going to say it was better than Bobby Brown, but just as good, yes. Now we're on to the bands that I don't think I touch with a 10-foot pole with their new vocalists. We'll start with Queensryche. Queensryche, to me, is nothing without Chris DeGarmo and Jeff Tate. I don't want to see a Todd LaTorre fronted Queensryche, and you will not see any of that in my record collection, or CD collection, excuse me. Judas Priest. I choose possibly to buy the Tim Ripper Owens albums on CD just to complete the collection, but Tim Ripper Owens is no Rob Halford. Iron Maiden. Blaze Bayley, you're no Bruce Dickinson. I might have the Blaze Bayley albums at some point in my collection just to have them. But do I enjoy them? No. Genesis. We're talking about the Ray Wilson period with Calling All Stations. I own the album to complete the collection. But Ray Wilson is no Phil Collins or Peter Gabriel. Absolutely not. Next we have Styx. Lawrence Gowan is no Dennis DeYoung. I own the latest Styx album, which some people think is fantastic, on CD, but choose not to focus on any years that Dennis DeYoung was not in there. Also, while I do think that Glenn Burtnick is a great singer, I don't think he's a Tommy Shaw. Understand why he was there. I really like that album with Glenn Burtnick, but he's no Tommy Shaw. Live. Chris, I'm going to probably butcher this name. Chris Shin was in live for a while on the album The Turn. Let's just say that I probably will pass on that album when it comes time to getting it. Stone Temple Pilots. Scott Weiland was a great singer in Stone Temple Pilots and one of my favorite groups in the 1990s. However, any vocalist that's going to follow up Scott Weiland probably will get a pass by me. I do own two albums, one with Chester Bennington, which I really enjoyed, and another one that I got before realizing that there's no need for any more Stone Temple Pilots albums without Scott Weiland. Yes, I prefer to stick in the John Anderson era. Now, there was a period where John Anderson didn't sing on at least one Atlantic album. I'm going to butcher the name, so I'm going to just forget. So I'm going to pass on that. But it was around 1980. Anyway, I will get that album because that's, to me, in the great period of, yes. But any album after John Anderson left, after in the 90s, I prefer to stay away from those Yes albums, and I usually do not buy those albums. They may be good singers, but they're not John Anderson. Guns N' Roses. We're talking about when Slash left and they released Chinese Democracy. Now, I own Chinese Democracy. I am an Axl fan. I'm not going to deny that. But anybody in the band during the Chinese Democracy is not Guns N' Roses. Guns N' Roses, to me, is what was during Appetite for Destruction and Use Your Illusions periods, even up through Spaghetti Incident. After that, can't tell you what Guns N' Roses is. However, I do like the fact that Slash came back and would love to see a full-length album with Slash and would eat that up in 2 seconds. And the last act is Asia. John Wetton is to me Asia. Steve Howe is to me Asia. Carl Palmer is to me Asia. Any album that Asia's released without John Wetton isn't necessarily in my collection. I basically stick with Asia to the Geffen releases, which are 4. 82, 83, 85, and 90. And other than that, to me, it doesn't matter. Anyway, that's a list of artists that are better or worse without their their main members. Don't call them original members. I want to make one more comment. I guess this is as good a video as possible. Those manufactured bands on Frontiers Records, I have no interest in listening to them. You will see one or two of those albums in my collection, as Journey was released on Frontiers Records overseas, and the new Alan Parsons album is on Frontiers Records. But the manufactured Frontiers Records albums, I actually prefer not to keep those in my collection. I think there's a Smart Bomb album. That's the name of one of the I didn't know it was manufactured by Frontiers Records in the early part of me getting into that stuff. I'll get that one, but other than that, I try to stay away from Frontiers Records recordings. Anyway, that's my video for today. Bands that succeeded and failed with new lead singers or lineup changes. And tune in soon for another video on the CD Man channel. My name is Nick S. Subscribe, hit that like button, and hit the notifications to get hit the dingy to get notifications. Till then, keep rocking on, keep listening to your physical media. I'm Nick S. signing off for now.